So, Professor Ilan, one more time, thank you so much. We really appreciate you being here speaking to us, and this is an important contribution. My name is Bruno Gilga. I'm a spokesperson for the Brazilian delegation in the coordinated food series, and I'm here with
Juan Bordera. I'm a climate journalist, now an MP, a political member of the Parliament of Valencian region in Spain, and participant in this amazing Global Sumud Flotilla.
Yes, and to us, being able to talk to you and listen to you and your assessment on what's going on right now is a great opportunity to give a contribution in the sense of deepening the political reflection about the moment that we're living now. So again, thank you very much, Professor Ilan.
It's a great pleasure to be with you.
Okay, then I'd like to start our conversation asking you, considering that in your work, you classified Israel's policy of ethnic cleansing of the Palestinian people in Gaza as incremental genocide, right? That's a very important concept, and this has been combined, in your view, with the open-air prison model, stripping Palestinians of all their civil rights. So I'd like to start the conversation asking you, how do you view the current situation with the ground invasion of Gaza City by Netanyahu's army, and what does it represent for the goals of the Zionist entity?
Yeah, I do think that the whole 2 years that have passed are an escalation of the Zionist project objective that have really not changed from the very beginning of this project in the late 19th century, and that is really replaced Palestine and the Palestinian with a European kind of a Jewish state. The ability to do this always depended on the historical circumstances, the conditions, the capacity. So in 1948, it was possible for the Zionist movement to expel half of the Palestinian population and take over 80% of historical Palestine. In 1967, the circumstances enabled the Zionist movement to take over the whole of historical Palestine. But whenever they took more territory, they also included a larger number of Palestinians under their rule and under their control. And for years, since 1967, Israel was looking for a way of dealing with its wish to have the whole territory and not having the people living in that territory. And much of what Israel does also depends on the resistance, on the reaction. So they found a way of finding enough politicians, I would say, in the West Bank to allow them some sort of control of the area without including the people in the state, without giving them basic civil rights and human rights. But it didn't work in the Gaza Strip. And in Gaza Strip, the resistance continued. And therefore, the next stage came. If we cannot control them, if we cannot overcome the resistance, it's time for elimination. It's time for genocide. And they were looking, of course, for the pretext, the excuse. And the 7th of October gave them that kind of pretext. Now, this is also, and it's terrible to say it because we have 65,000 people dead and 9,000 who are absent and so many wounded and so many displaced, but it's still, in their eyes, is not completed. And therefore, they are now escalating within the escalation. That is to destroy the whole major city of Gaza, regardless of the human cost. I think there's this particular government is watching the world, and if the world is only content with words and not actions, it always escalates what it does without inhibition. And why do I say it's impossible even to say this, because what they have done so far is horrendous and incomprehensible, and yet. We can see that there's always another level of cruelty, another level of brutality, even when everything else had already been done. So for me, this is the worst kind of phase within a long process. I first called it ethnic cleansing. It turned into incremental genocide, and now it turns into full genocide. But the whole idea is to eliminate Palestine as an idea, as a nation, as a people, and much depends, of course, of how the international community would react now that these plans are not secret anymore. They are in the open, and we can see them on a daily basis. When I wrote about it in 2007, people said to me, no, this is not what Israel wants to do, or not that is what Israel had done. But I think very few people can now say that they don't know. The question is what we do, and part of what you guys are doing, of course, is so important because there needs to be all the time a reaction, an awareness, a recognition that the Palestinian people are facing an existential danger of existence.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Ilan. You also referred to the particularity of settler colonialism carried out by Israel, and that the struggle for the Palestinian people is the struggle for justice for all those peoples who have been victims of imperialist colonialism. Could you talk a little about that?
Yes. And in fact, as you know, I was in Brazil about 3 weeks ago, and one of the most moving moments was visiting a group of native Brazilians in a village near Paraty, and talking to the children there about settler colonialism. And I didn't have to use a lot of sophisticated academic language. They understood exactly what I was talking about. So it is a global phenomenon. First of all, the one in which Europeans were destroying indigenous native population in order to build a new Europe outside of Europe. And in that respect, Zionism should be analyzed within this framework of the injustice that Europe, in its colonialist age, imposed on the non-European people. That's one thing I think to remember. And finally, we can see now a solidarity network between all these people where in the past they were not working together, and that's very encouraging. But secondly, I think there is a connection between also people who are victims of economic injustice, social injustice, immigrants, people who are still suffering from poverty, people who are affected by global warming. It is connected because it's the same kind of politics that shows indifference to the suffering of these particular groups, is the same political system that shows indifference to the suffering of the people in Gaza. And everywhere when we can create a different kind of politics, where we return to the idea of moral values, when we return to the idea of international solidarity, when we take seriously the need to fight social, economic, and ecological injustice, we are also fighting for justice in Palestine. And every time we fail in this, we are allowing Israel more immunity and impunity for its actions on the ground.
Thank you so much, Professor Ilan. I actually was with you in Brazil in a couple of opportunities.
I do remember. We shared the stage in a very moving event, and I think that event itself, this particular alternative festival, indicated the solidarity between people in Brazil who suffer from settler colonialism, economic oppression, and ecological disasters on the one hand, and the people of Palestine. And it was very clear that for many of them, Palestine was a symbol of the struggle for justice, not just for the Palestinians, but also against injustices that happens in their own country. This is our global power. And we need to know how to translate it, because there is another global power that unfortunately allows genocides to continue. But we should be hopeful that we are creating the right network and institutions to challenge it and create a different world in Palestine and elsewhere.
Thank you, Professor. I will jump with one question that is more related to the environment that we are suffering in the flotilla. Without the governments doing enough, we are seeing now too many years that have needed to be like more brave. The statements and the actions, of course, of our governments and our international organizations. What do you think about the situation right now? We have like two, Italy and Spain, joining our flotilla with some boats that are going to do only rescue issues, they say. What do you think about the governments, what they need to do to try to finish this genocide and open a humanitarian corridor as we want?
I think the minimum they should do is protect the flotilla on the way to Gaza. Why do I say the minimum? Because if you look at the United Nations Charter, the United Nations and the member states of the United Nations are obliged to defend people who are under the danger of genocide. In fact, the United Nations is even allowed to send military forces to defend people who are facing either a human or nature-made catastrophe. And this is the case that we have. So at least in the minimum, they should allow a peaceful flotilla to make its way as part of the international obligation to allow humanitarian aid to reach Gaza without any conditions, not as part of a deal, not as part of trying to compromise with Israel of what kind of food can go in, what kind of medicine can go in, but just this basic thing I still don't understand how anyone in any government is still debating what they should do on it. The Mediterranean is not an Israeli lake. It belongs to, it's a Euromed lake. And in this Euromed lake, there are countries with power, with navies, with responsibility for free transfer, for humanity. All this seems to be not respected when it comes to Israel and Palestine. And this has the danger of affecting our confidence in international law and international cooperation. So I do hope that they would understand that this is not just about Gaza. This is really about the future of this whole area and its ability to deal with issues of immigration, which bothers so many people, and poverty and ecology. This is part of it. Are we acting together in the name of the value system that, at least on paper, we all believe in? The basic human rights and civil rights of people to live, to eat, to get medical aid when they need it, to be defended from destruction, human-made destruction. All this is really something that should become as natural, as almost like second nature to the government. And we understand that there are lobbies and there are cynical politicians, and this is why we don't see that action yet. But let's hope that they understand that this is beyond the question of Gaza. This is about the future of our area.
Regarding that, what do you think about the social movements that are building this pressure? Because if not, there was not the Italian strike and the Spanish magnificent actions that forced our governments to do something. What do you need the civil society has to do to overcome this situation?
Yeah. First of all, I think we're beginning to see, it's not enough, but we're beginning to see the impact of the social movements. I think this, with all my reservation, and we'll talk about it in different contexts, maybe sometime in the future, with all my reservation about this whole charade on the recognition of Palestine, And nonetheless, this is a response to the pressure of the social movements. This is an understanding by political elites in Spain and in Italy and other countries that they have to do something because their societies are upset with the way that with their indifference and lack of action. Now, I don't think the recognition is enough, and I don't think the recognition would stop the genocide by itself. But I see it as the beginning of a move in, first of all, changing the language, and this is only due to the pressure of the social movements. And hopefully the social movements' action, especially if they are so active, some effective actions like strikes, like visible actions, not just petitions and words, may convince the governments to move faster on the issue that can really matter, and that's the issue of sanctions. That's the only thing that can really begin to be effective. No symbolic actions, but proper sanctions. And the governments have the tools. They don't even need the whole EU to agree to that, because unfortunately there are members of the EU that are not very supportive of these actions. But I think this is what we expect them to do at the minimum in order to stop the genocide.
Thank you so much, Professor Ilan. Following on that, actually, we've been seeing that this movement in this past few days of recognition of the Palestinian state by UK and France, while Trump is very, very clearly positioning himself and the United States administration as Israel's foremost ally in the genocide. Some other imperialist countries in Europe have sought to hide their role in the genocide doing this. However, as you said, the terms don't guarantee Palestinian self-determination. And moreover, these same powers continue to actively collaborate with the genocide by selling arms to Israel and persecuting pro-Palestinian movements in their territories, right? So do you think this reinforces the idea that the struggle for Palestine is can only be by its essence an anti-imperialistic struggle?
Yes, and also an anti-Zionist struggle. I don't see any other way of avoiding it. Recognizing a small Bantustan in Ramallah is totally sidelining most of the people of Palestine and most of Palestine as a country. It reminds me of the Oslo Accord. It sounds very dramatic and very historical, but if you look at the reality, it substitutes one form of occupation with another form of occupation. And that is unfortunately what most of the governments who support now the recognition are also associating it with what they call the two-state solution, which is really creating a Palestinian Bantustan next to Israel as the best case scenario. And this is not going to change the reality of oppression, of ethnic cleansing. And you are right. This is not just about the Zionist ideology and its wish to eliminate the Palestinians. It is the connection of that to this kind of global imperial populist, right-wing, neo-capitalist kind of networks where the United States is at the center, trying to do both things. First of all, impose its own solutions on people without at all considering their aspirations, without allowing them a voice in their future on the one hand, and at the same time trying to reap some economic dividends out of these kinds of political solutions, which are irrelevant and usually perpetuate oppression and colonization. So I do think it is something that we should talk, especially in the so-called the global South. How do we replace the network of imperialist countries with countries that don't have this imperial legacy in the Middle East and in Africa, and to together create an international network that does exactly the opposite, listens to the people themselves, to their aspiration, to their wish for self-determination, independence, and finding the ways of supporting them rather than trying to lay obstacle in the way, in the name of so-called strategic interests or economic interests.
Thank you so much, Professor. We see ourselves here in this flotilla as just one part, actually, of a social movement that is grassrooted and that has millions and millions of people all around the world doing everything they can. As Juan was saying, we just saw a couple of days ago the most powerful general strike in Italy in defense of the Palestinian people and against genocide, a mass demonstration with more than 500,000 workers and young people across the country. And we're seeing movements like those in many countries. And we're hoping that these moments and these actions and these initiatives can be part of building an alternative that is rooted on the political independence of the working class and of the oppressed peoples of the world, with our organization to face imperialistic oppression. And we see these moments as critical to strengthen the Palestinian people's struggle against genocide, because as you said, that is the heart and the center of all the struggles against economic exploitation, as you said, against imperialistic oppression and all the oppressed people's struggles all around the world. So, thank you very, very much. And I would like to ask you, I mean, we're on our way to Gaza right now. We will keep on doing everything we can to break Israel's illegal siege and bring humanitarian aid and also this political support to the Palestinian people. And I would like you to send your message to the Global Sumud Flotilla, to everyone that is involved in this effort, this pro-Palestinian movement around the world.
Thank you so much. Yes, indeed, I do believe that what you're doing is an important part of the message the international community, especially its civil societies, its social movement, is sending. We are not standing by when these things are happening. We are doing all we can with all the means that we have, and this is a non-violent means to try and create a situation that ends ethnic cleansing, ends genocide and killing. And this is a reflection of a massive global sentiment that sees the case of Gaza as a symbol of the struggle against so many other injustices. And I'm sure the people of Gaza, as much as they are now desperate and do not see a way out of the situation, would welcome such an act, such a recognition that they exist, that people care, that people lose sleeps at night in order to find any possible way to end their suffering. I think that is very, very important. And I hope that on another level, it would put to shame the governments who have much more capacity and ability than you have for both the humanitarian aid and to change the reality, would feel shame and would hopefully, at least the more decent among them, among these politicians, would feel embarrassed and will take the example and understand that there is much that they can do. They cannot keep saying, well, there's nothing we can do. There's so much they can do. So at least to stop the carnage, to stop the genocide, and create the conditions for beginning decolonization, reconciliation that would benefit everyone, Jews and Arabs alike, between the river and the sea, living in equality, in liberation, in freedom, and not as we have it now, having the Palestinians living under apartheid, ethnic cleansing, and genocide.
Thank you so much, Professor.
I think we are so satisfied with this conversation.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. and good luck with everything, and keep in touch. And I hope all goes as well as one can hope for. And you and all of us are with you. I was in London in a conference with Jeremy Corbyn, and we talked with one of the other ships. I don't remember which one it was. And from London, we send our support and solidarity. So there are people, and I'm sure you're aware of it, watching, praying, and supporting with all their hearts and souls your sacred mission.
That is definitely the strength that is pushing us through the Mediterranean. That's the strength that we want to deliver to the Palestinian people, who are the ones pointing us, guiding us, pointing us the way to strengthen their struggle, not only against genocide, but for a free Palestine from the river to the sea. Thank you so much, Professor, and we will keep in touch. We'll keep on struggling together.